And welcome back to another episode of Highly Debated. It is me, your host, Rusty, and we are back to go over what was UFC Prates versus Gary Machado on UFC on ESPN. And boy, did we have a great fight. I don't know if you guys got to catch that, but man, what can you say? It was a really competitive fight. It was a fight that I was expecting to already be a tough fight for Gary, but honestly, I wasn't expecting for Prates to be so patient and to not really pressure or push the fight the way he fought versus Gary. I felt like he was kind of just waiting for Gary to mess up rather than him make his own fight, if that makes sense. And really, we've seen that before in the last fight. Who was that? In the Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez. Same thing with Pitbull. He was way too patient. He let Yair pretty much walk around, didn't cut the ring. And I feel like Prates, it was number 13 versus number 7 in the rankings. I felt like Prates really kind of overperformed for where he is in the rankings. He gave Gary a run for his money, but to be honest, Gary, or whatever the fuck he goes by, Machado. Is it Gary Machado or Machado Gary? I don't fucking know. But look, he gave him a run for his money, but that wasn't without, Ian Garry controlling the entire fight. He dominated Prates. He nullified his offense. He stayed on the bike. He kept moving nonstop. And really, he fought like a guy who is smart, who came out here knowing that if I do XYZ, I know I can win. But really, what we saw was Gary stepping in the late notice. This was a late notice for him. And he stepped in, made sure that this fight would happen. And, this tells me that this guy's ready to go at any time. Skill-wise, he has enough to keep a dangerous guy like Carlos Prates off of him. He was on 11 finish fight win streak, I think that is, 11 or 10 fights, which is freaking nuts if you think about it, on a win streak in a knockout streak like that. So I personally had Prates winning, but that doesn't mean that I was completely disappointed with the way he handled the fight or the way he went about taking this fight to Gary. There were some good things, there were some bad things. I think there is still opportunity for him to go back to the drawing board, but really I don't know if he can. But let me stick to what I gotta say here. Gary controlled the majority of the fight, and Prates really, with the way he rallied towards the end, he really avoided a shutout, to be honest. Gary was really pouring it on him. At one point, I was kind of concerned that Prates was going to be stopped just based on accumulated damage. Gary clearly doesn't have the type of power where he's going to knock a guy out with one single punch, but he has enough power to accumulate damage to possibly put you away in maybe 4 rounds prematurely, 3 rounds, depending how many of those punches are really clean. I think Carlos tried attacking that front leg of Gary because they had opposite stances, but he didn't do it effectively enough, and Gary actually handled it pretty well. Some of those were good, but they didn't seem to have a great effect to him. He was able to stay, on his movement, move around the ring, make Prates chase him, make him earn his offense. He wasn't just standing in front of him, and kudos to Gary to coming up with a game plan like that in late notice. I'm not a fan of Gary Machado in the sense of like who he is per se. I don't like how corny he is. I think he comes off a little too fake. But if he was to take on his own persona, if he was to be like who he really is, stop trying to sell this like you're Conor McGregor. Sell this shit like you're Ian Garry Machado. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same. We can tell that you're trying to fucking do something that you're not, but that something is Conor McGregor, right? But that brings me, this performance was just an outclassing of Gary Machado. He outclassed Prates. There is no way to see it. Other than that, he pitched the shutout. The reason why it was a close fight is because Prates decided to step on the accelerator, landed some big shots in round 4 and round 5 that clearly had Garry on the fucking ropes. And that tells you that Prates has great damage. We also saw that he had great, I don't know if we saw some great defense on the floor because Garry never tested that, but he popped up for most of the times. He didn't spend a lot of time on the floor. He usually worked his way up through the cage, and he was able to have this sweet little like sweeping movement. When he would be taken down, he would like kind of cradle Garry from the back of his thighs and then toss him over as he would fall back, and that was really neat. He was able to get it off once, and it was really effective, and you could tell they worked that because he kept doing it until it finally worked. But the thing is that, like, bro, like, you gotta make Garry pay for that. Like, if the first time that didn't work, you gotta go for a knee or something like that, or like, you know, what he did with the ground and pound, the way he ended that fight, I feel like he should have done that with he should have done that with the other ones. But like, let's say the way he ended that fight, he should have done that with like round 3, round 2, where he was kind of trying to get into the fight, but he wasn't able to. And I feel like that's a testament to Garry's ability, to be honest, nothing else. It's not like Prates stopped fighting. He kept coming forward until he was able to break through with his pressure, because Garry slowed down a little bit. But it wasn't like Prates did something so effective that Garry slowed down. Really what it was is Garry probably just being fucking exhausted from fucking blasting this guy, not having enough power to get some respect to make him back up. And even if he did, I think Prates is the type of guy who's probably going to go out in his shield. So at the end of the day, what do we got? How good is Ian Garry Machado? Well, shit. He went pretty much, 5 rounds with it's not Khamzat, what the fuck is his name? It's the other Russian guy, Shavkat, right? And that was a really competitive fight, and that was also because I don't know if Shavkat was injured or not, but he didn't look as effective as he normally does, and that seems to be a pattern of when Garry's starting to fight people. So really what we're seeing is someone who is skilled enough to take your offense away, and he's skilled enough to still be effective with his own offense. So how good is Garry Machado? I think he might become champion. I don't see that being something that is out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. But the problem is that I don't know if he has enough power to be the type of champion that could reign for a long time. Thing is that someone like a Figgy of you the same weight or something like that, someone with a lot of power, a lot of skill, is going to be able to take those hits or land his own in a way where he's going to need more than what he's doing right now. Someone else is going to cut the ring, take him down to the ground. We saw him not do great with the ground and pound towards the end, maybe because he was tired, but he wasn't able to defend that as easily as he was able to defend on his feet. And that's a skill upon itself, right? Being on your back and being able to still kind of be effective, because we see some fighters being able to throw elbows from the bottom, trying to catch a punch and then put them in some sort of fucking arm bar or something like that. And Garry didn't really show that at any instant like that. Not that he needed to. He already had the fight in the pocket, but you would want to see him have better defense. But maybe he was stunned. I don't know. So how good is Garry? I think he's going to become champion, but I don't know how long he's going to be champion. And let's see. Is this a fraud check for Prates? I don't think this is a fraud check for Prates. The guy, win that many fights concurrently through knockout without facing a couple of guys that are skilled enough to get the fuck away. I haven't seen every single one of those knockouts, but it could be that it's a case where guys came in there trying to fight him, like, I'm gonna stand up and fight him, kind of like they do with Poatan. Maybe it's the same deal with him when they were coming to fight him. But the thing is that a guy like Prates, he's never gonna stop coming towards you, and I feel like it's not a fraud check because he can clearly fight. Because a guy like Garry Machado should be polishing off a guy outside of the top 10. A guy outside of the top 10, let's say 13 or 14, fighting someone in the 7 to 4, that's a giant level jump. 9 and 10 is usually very good still. So, especially in that division. Like, what are we talking about? That division, it's full of killers. So the fact that Prates performed so well against Garry. There's something to save there. But the problem is this guy gonna stop smoking cigarettes? Although it's cool as fuck and I love seeing it, I don't know if that's the best decision because he clearly gassed out toward the end. And fuck, is his fight IQ terrible, bro? What was he thinking? Letting fucking Garry get away. At the end, he didn't just hammer fist. Why are you trying to punch this guy? He lets him up so he could punch him. How fucking dumb is that? He's gonna kick himself. And if they really are fighting nerds, that man's gonna fucking hammer fist for like the next couple fucking months. Because if he could keep putting on performances, even the way he did against Garry, you can see he could save himself with the power and the pressure. If he was to put it on maybe before fucking round 5, if you put that on from round 3 onwards, maybe things would be different. But, you know, that also wasn't like easy because Garry was fucking putting on also a masterclass of fucking popping and moving and lateral movement. And maybe some of you guys are not well versed in what lateral movement is, but he wasn't necessarily running. He was popping, he was moving along the cage, and Prates, rather than stepping over and cutting off in anticipation in the movement of Garry, what he would do is just follow him throughout the ring. What he should have done is time that fucking kick that he was trying to land, time it as he's moving away, because Garry's was always going to move away from his power punch. So they should have kind of worked on him landing the left high kick. But I don't know. Fighting Nerds got one loss now, and people are claiming that it's a fraud check. I think that it's not a fraud check. I think that his next fight is set up as a fraud check, because you could say that maybe he was too patient in this fight. But I don't think it's like that. I think that maybe he's gonna kick himself because instead of like trying to let Garry commit an error, I think what they get wrong in strategy there is that don't wait for him to commit an error by you just stalking him. You fucking make him commit the error. Feints, pressure, cutting off the ring, jabbing, bait this fucking guy to commit the error. You just don't fucking walk in and then, you know, throw one big fucking punch trying to pot shot him and fucking knock him out. A guy like Garry Machado is always gonna fucking move, is always gonna beat you in terms of points, and that is an aspect of this game, right? If you go the full fucking rounds like we saw, he could get the W even though you fucking about to finish him at the end of the fucking round, and you messed that up, bro. You messed that up. He's gonna kick himself. I nearly threw my cell phone away, shit. But that's what are my thoughts. The good for Garry is that he proved he's a anytime, anywhere, any place type of guy. He's willing to save the company. He's willing to take big risks with his career, because Prates could have not fought, or he could have fought a guy more like number 10, 13 versus 10. 13 versus 9. He stepped up versus number 7 on a late notice as well, and you have to commend both guys for something like that. They put their life's work on the line. Garry could have gone to back-to-back loss against a guy who's knocking out everyone and anyone, including their mama, bro, including their mama. But where do we go from here? That's the bad, right? The bad is that you beat number 13, although very powerful, limited in skill, and he's still lower ranked than you, very much by like considerable amount at this point, right? So it was kind of expected of you, but at the same time, this doesn't move the needle towards the title contention. Prates wasn't even a title contender at this point. He was just like, he took the hype from him. He had hype. He was on a win streak. He had 4-fight UFC win streak, and Garry just took that hype from him, kind of slowed down the hype train to the point where people are considering it a fraud check. Now, for Garry, that's the bad. Performance was great, other than he got tired towards the end. He needs to do something about keeping people off of him, and he needs to become dangerous in different parts of his game. And if a guy like Prates, who's not known as being the guy with amazing takedown defense, that now maybe it is. He had 100% takedown defense coming into this fight, but Garry's not a wrestler. So what's gonna happen, right? So what's gonna happen when Garry meets a real wrestler that like Belal Muhammad or something like that? We don't fucking know. I have a feeling it's not going to go that great for him because he clearly was fucking not going for that towards the end. He could have just wrestled Prates the last 2 rounds, but he elected to stand up and fight with him. That's kind of like not the best decision on his part too. If you're a fully dimensional fucking fighter, you have three of them in the bag. Go to the ground and pound. This guy's not known for being a jiu-jitsu guy. The last 2 rounds, let's go fucking find out. Let's go find out how good he is on the ground. Can he fucking put his dukes up when he's on his back? I don't know. We don't know anymore. Gary didn't want to test that. So that's the bad for Gary. The bad for Prates is that now people are wondering whether he is UFC worthy talent, whether or not he's like, I don't think it's a fraud check, but people are calling for it. So nothing I could fucking do about that, is there? But what is he going to do about it? I think he needs to just hop right on that horse and keep knocking people out. This could be great for his record. If Gary goes on to become a champion and then they see each other in the future, if Prates addresses some of these shortcomings, like his defense could use some improvement, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think that's good enough. What else I got here? Can there be improvements from either fighter? Well, the answer is yes. There could always be improvement, right? A guy like GSP will show you that. But I think Gary needs to work on his wrestling. Clearly is not as effective as he thought it was. He needs to work on sitting on some of those punches so he can earn the respect of fighters that are just walking through his. Because he really didn't make anything to make Prates give up on himself. And that partly is because of how strong he can punch. And because he was being effective with his punches. Very sharp and on the point punches. But it wasn't enough to stop this guy coming forward. And sometimes you fucking need to bite down, be willing to get hit. Because when you punch and move, you normally don't really focus on how hard you can punch somebody. You're kind of focused on punching or counter punching. And when you really punch, like when you really sit down on a fucking punch and pivot and transfer that power, it's a better punch. More power. Keep this guy off of you. He's got to sit down and do that sometimes. Prates needs to go back to the drawing board and really just study UFC, bro. Study finishers. That's going to be his hallmark. You can't fucking let this guy walk up. Do not, bro. You got 25 seconds and you let him walk up. What the fuck are you thinking? You're kidding me? Bro. But I also think he needs to work on kind of his takedown defense. Gary's a guy who clearly is not the best fucking guy at taking you down. Hand wrestling was great. I like that. But at moments he looked like he was just giving up. He needs to be a better sprawler. That's the thing. That you're going to have to sprawl in some of these. But I think that's where it is. He needs to work on his defense. Clearly his offense is fucking great. There's nothing that he should be adjusting, but the adjustments come in the non-sexy part. Defense, defensive wrestling, and just I don't know, go back to the drawing board. You guys are the fighting nerds, bro. That level of volume is unacceptable. That level of technique for the first 4 rounds is unacceptable. Even the last round, the only reason was effective is because he threw caution out the window and he was willing to take a couple punches to land a stronger one of his so Gary could be in danger. But I think Prates needs to put the cigarettes down, start working on IQ and technique and all the other shit I said that clearly he's not going to do, because why the fuck would he listen to me? He's the one in the UFC with 11 fucking knockouts and four winning fights in the UFC. So they were doing something right, but I think that's where he should fucking address his shortcomings. And that's all I'm going to go over. I really just wanted to talk about the main event. Lionheart retired. I don't really care. Who beat him? I don't really care. And next week we have Deiveson Figueiredo versus Corey Sandhagen. I'm not going to go too deep. I'm just going to give you my pick. Give me Deiveson Figueiredo by stoppage, possibly a knockout. I'm just going to say stoppage, but I'm thinking a knockout. Corey Sandhagen, to me, 17-5. Really, let me see who his last fight. He lost to Umar, won against Rob Font, won against Marlon Vera before that, and that was only one fight in 2024. He had 2 losses already. Man, what is his ranking? He is number 4 at this moment. I think he's gonna get stopped. Figueiredo fucking cracks, and he's good on the ground. He's good with the ground and pound. Corey Sandhagen clearly is a guy who's willing to take some risk, and he's willing to go believe in himself, clearly, but Umar made it look like there's levels. You know, he beat him. And I feel like Davidson's going to show him that. Davidson is fucking strong and he's dangerous. And I don't think Corey is going to have anything to Figueiredo back up. So I don't know where the line is at. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. I don't think he's going to fucking walk over him. But I think that if he does walk over him, are we really going to be surprised? I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised, bro. Davidson is going to put it on. But that is my pick for next week. Really after that, I think boxing's also coming up. We got Ryan Garcia versus Rolando Romero. And really give me Ryan Garcia by knockout or stoppage over Raleigh. I like me some Raleigh. I like his energy. His dude's hilarious unintentionally, really. But Ryan Garcia has a deadly left hand that I don't think Raleigh has the defense to avoid. If Raleigh can avoid that left hand and land some hard punches of his own, Ryan could find himself in trouble. A guy like Raleigh could hurt you and put you away. Definitely, especially in the early rounds. If Raleigh's fresh, he could really step on the gas and put Ryan away. That's not out the realm of possibility. Raleigh hits hard enough for that to be a puncher's chance. But the problem is that Ryan Garcia has a speed advantage. He has very good power as well. I wouldn't say phenomenal, but it's very good. And I think that Ryan Garcia is really going to come out there, put on a show in terms of speed and power, and really just pop Rolando on his ass. And you know, if they go to the distance, is because probably Ryan wasn't really looking for the finish. But I think that's going to come because Rolando's going to, you know, not necessarily be the most responsible when it comes to his defense. After that, Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez. I really like Jose Ramirez. I like his story. I like him as a person. I've kind of looked at some of his videos when it came to like fighter profiles. But really, we have a pretty good technical fighter in Ramirez versus an elite, exceptional boxer. And that's what I was trying to say. Jose Ramirez is a great boxer in terms of like strictly boxing skills, not including power or anything like that, right? The reason I make it like that is because Haney, on the other hand, does not have any power, but he's an exceptional elite boxer. So when you put it like that, neither of them have exceptional power. Both of them have enough power to, you know, sting the other fighter, but not enough to stop the other fighter with one single punch. Devin Haney maybe has been working on his power, can maybe counterpunch to hurt Ramirez, but really we've never even seen that from him at that extent. We've never seen David Haney be a very massive puncher whatsoever, quite the opposite. And Jose Ramirez does sometimes show like he has some power, but really against a guy like Devin Haney, who's that skilled, who's that mobile, who's that really good at like just being on his bike and being able to move and dodge and hit at the same time, I don't think Ramirez is going to have an answer for that unless he decides to make this a rough and tumble fight where he says he's going to fight dirty and try to make this a phone booth fight. Maybe he could give himself an opportunity there and catch Haney in a spot where he can get hurt, maybe with his hands down after he misses, something like that. But other than that, if they straight up just try to fight in the middle of the ring, give me Devin Haney. Although I don't really like the fucking guy, give me Devin Haney. After that, this is a decent card. We got Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza. That one's been heated with like, you know, all the drama and all of the fucking like videos and everything. And then like I think they were like fucking like he tried punching him. Teofimo Lopez, I think he's severely underrated. He's extremely athletic. He has a mouth that can sell any fight, and he's a very hard puncher. But I think his only thing is that he's too little to ever be a massive star like he envisions he should be. Like, you know, he won't ever be like Mayweather level, but he has like fucking athletic abilities that even Mayweather will fucking sit there and be like, what the fuck? Like this guy, I mean, just look at the shit he does when he's in the ring. He's very, very athletic, and Arnold Barboza is not going to have an answer for that. If he makes it to the later rounds, he might have an opportunity to hurt Teofimo after Teofimo has slowed down and showboated enough. You know, maybe that happens, but if that doesn't happen, then I think what we're going to end up seeing is, Teofimo just possibly even stopping Arnold Barboza. Arnold Barboza is pissed, so he might come in there really emotional too and overextending. A guy like Teofimo Lopez, he has that athletic ability to really sell a punch to you, move out the way, and then come back with a power punch of his own. But those are the 3 fights that we have for boxing next week. So give me Ryan Garcia over Raleigh, but I would hedge my bets with a Raleigh, even hedge your bets like a little bit with a Raleigh Romero knockout, but you're really looking for a Ryan win. I would say if I put my money on a Ryan win, I don't know if a Ryan knockout is going to be there. Look at his latest, but he doesn't have great. This is tailor-made for Ryan to win. If he doesn't win this, then I don't know. Use that as you will, but give me Ryan Garcia. Possibly by stoppage. That's my hunch. Give me Devin Haney, win by decision. I don't think he's going to stop Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez can take some fucking damage. And I would hedge my bet with a Jose Ramirez. Because you want to hedge your bets with just in case, right? So that just in case Jose Ramirez would be a TKO. If he can hurt Devin Haney early and then pour it on him, maybe he could stop him. But if he doesn't do that, which I don't think he will, Devin Haney's going to cruise to a decision victory like he always does. So give me Devin Haney in this case. And then last, we got Teofimo Lopez winning by stoppage or knockout versus Arnold Barboza. And really, I don't think Barboza has much of a chance. I know it sounds fucked up to say, but I don't think he has anything to offer. Like, truly, Teofimo, I think, is a generational talent who has thrown it away with antics by having his dad and by not really focusing on fighting, to be honest. That's what I truly do think. And then we got Canelo fighting. I'm not gonna fucking go over it. Let's see. Bruno Suras. Okay. You know what? I'm interested in seeing that Jaime Munguia one. Seeing how he does in that. I'm interested in that. So I don't know who I'm gonna take, but it should be Jaime Munguia, bro. It should be. He should have won the first one to begin with. Everyone thought this was supposed to be a win. So statistically speaking, we should have a fight where Munguia wins if we really think. If the analysis were correct and Suras got lucky, then Munguia should win. But that's what the rematch is for. We're going to find out here. It could be that Bruno Suras has Munguia's number. But Munguia has been training with Canelo lately, so I'm excited to see how that turns out. Maybe he learned something from the champ. Maybe. Then we got Canelo versus William Skull. Put your money on Canelo. And William Skull, don't know nothing about him. And that's the problem about this fight, that this is just another payday for Canelo. So really, give me Canelo, give me Jaime Munguia, give me Badu Jack. And that's pretty much all. Then on Sunday, we got Naoya Inoue versus Ramon Cardenas. That's going to be a firefight. Inoue always knocks everybody out. That's going to be on Sunday. And that's all I got for you this week. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe and share this shit so I can keep on doing this. So that was it. That was my reaction. Those are my picks for the next couple fights. I really am not going to go into too much detail because I'm trying to keep this video short, and I'm also trying to do this weekly, and I don't want this to become a giant hassle. But that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to be responding to some of the comments that you leave on the video, so make sure to reply. Let me know who you think is going to win. Do you think Gary's going to be champion like I think? Do you think that Canelo should be taking someone else? Clearly, it should be David Benavidez, but how hard is this guy ducking at this point? And then I also want to know, who should Gary fight next? Because I don't know if title shot is next after a win like this, but he should be fighting the next contender for the next title shot, I believe. But let me know what you guys think. It is me, your boy, Rusty, and I'm signing out for another episode of Highly Debated. Peace.